Well, we're really getting down to the brass tacks in this interview of what it is that Essential Craftsman is all about. Of course, we talk about learning new things and new skills and picking up hobbies, but we're also interested in talking about career and the trades. And today we're talking about welding with Danny Keiderling from Western Welding Academy. Now, this is a trade school in Gillette, Wyoming, which is, I think they're known as the energy capital of maybe the world or maybe the country. I'm not sure, but there's a lot of energy in that part of Wyoming. Coal, oil, and there's welders and there's welding schools. And I've always heard, my whole life I've heard about, these guys welding out on oil pipelines and making huge money, and that's basically all I ever knew. So it was really nice to get someone like Danny here pinned down to to really speak to that and explain what that means. And the answer is, yeah, you can really make some good money. Now, unfortunately for me, I'm not at a point in my life where I'm needing a brand new career, but I've got 3 sons, and if any one of them asked me, they're small, but if they were a little older and they asked me what I thought they should do for a career, I would say go to Western Welding Academy. I mean, that's a great option among many, I would say. And you'll tell from this discussion with Danny the energy that he's got. And they're not a old school. They just started a few years ago, which in a lot of ways is another great thing about them. They've got a lot of um, momentum and excitement, and you can just tell that these guys are having a wonderful time teaching and sharing and promoting this trade. So I hope you enjoy the discussion. Danny's really entertaining, and if you're like me and you're not needing a new career or you're not needing to pick up pipeline welding to add to your repertoire, listen to it anyways, because Danny's really not just entertaining, but he's a good teacher. He is I would just say he's the ultimate kind of down to earth, relatable fellow. Just seems like a guy you could be friends with, and I really enjoyed the conversation. And they're putting out a lot of content themselves. In fact, Danny's all over the internet right now on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and all these places. So you will go watch those as well. I'm sure you will if you listen to the whole discussion. But like I said, if you enjoy hearing from him here, there is a lot more of Danny out there on the internet talking about welding and showing the tricks of the trade for the common man like me, and for those of you who might be needing a new career. And wow, what a career it is, welding on pipelines. So without any further ado, Danny Keiderling from Western Welding Academy. All right. Well, thanks for taking time out of your day. You probably got a whole room full of students and a big punch list of tasks, but appreciate you coming, sitting down with us. For those who don't know what you guys are doing, maybe give us the overview of what Western Welding Academy is all about.
Yeah, yep. So yeah, it's always pretty hectic. It's eventful every day at Western Welding Academy between the different teams we got. But our main goal at Western Welding Academy obviously is to create high quality, top tier welders. And we do that every single day. We graduate students every single day at Western Welding Academy, and we actually bring in new students every Monday. It's a little unorthodox compared to a lot of other schools with semesters and stuff, but it
Huh.
actually is very, very beneficial to that student. To where they don't have to, they can really tailor that start date to them to where it benefits them a little bit more, whether it be certain hay season for some people, or whatever, summertime jobs, cool stuff like that. And so there's a lot of other stuff that we have going on in the mix. Our instructors just absolutely kill it every day with those students out there
Wow.
trying to get them, trained up for what the real world needs. That's another one of our mottos. Not that we're against college by any means. It has their purpose, but in the trades, we definitely feel strongly, especially into the oil and gas, pipe industry, stuff like that. You got to be taught by people that have actually done it, because it's kind of it's a whole different mindset on a job versus like a college classroom or something like that. And
Yeah.
that's our goal, mission.
Yeah. So where did you go to welding school? Maybe I saw it somewhere that you went to a community college, but what are the other options for people who want to do this type of welding out there? Just community colleges or something, or what else is there?
Yeah, there is other options. I would say not quite as good as like an independent.
Yeah,
Community college have a lot of state funding, stuff like that. So if they don't do
yeah.
their job correctly, which in my case I felt happened, they
Oh,
don't have any skin in the game, right? Because they're,
yeah,
they're built, their paycheck comes from the government, comes from our tax money, stuff like that. Because I went to college, and it wasn't bad. I did learn things. I mean, there's other things I could have done worse in life, in college, but it's kind of a different aspect when you're thinking about working with your hands,
yeah.
trades and skills. And Western Welding Academy is a little more, stands out a little bit more because of the just that actual real experience. But yeah, the community colleges are good for guys. I always like it. It's kind of like a way to get a taste of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To get your taste. So that but you usually aren't going to get career oriented out of like a community college usually,
Yep.
unless it's to be like an instructor or some sort. For another community college, just because of the, I mean, they still got people out there oxyacetylene welding in college,
Oh,
which is
wow.
never used in the industry. I've
Oh,
probably made
wow.
$50 in my whole entire career,
Jeez.
oxyacetylene welding. So
Wow, and they're still, like, starting kids out doing that or teaching
yep,
it, taking time to
yep,
interesting.
that's what I did too. Yep, that's what I started out as. I mean,
Wow.
it was. I learned it was cool. I mean, I have that skill to this day. Like I said,
Yeah.
I've made $50 off of it.
So,
Probably in
will
my life.
you I've never no one's actually explained it. Is oxyacetylene welding simply using, like, a cutting torch to get up to temperature to melt and make a puddle and weld things together? Is that the basically how what that's all about?
Yep. Yep. So
Okay.
there's lots of different types of welding. You got oxy fuel welding, your oxygen and your fuel. You can do it with propane, acetylene, natural gas, gasoline, depending on what torch. Yeah, you're just using a flame and heat. It's still, I mean, it's a good process. It's just not efficient, not fast. It's more
Mhm.
expensive. That's why it's
Mhm.
kind of baffling to me why people would even teach it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, you got oxy fuel. It's just as simple as it said right there. A torch and that. You got GMAW, gas metal arc welding, which is a MIG process. You
Yeah.
use where it constantly feeds wire. A lot of people call it MIG. You got gas tungsten arc welding, so you're using tungsten and gas, the gas tungsten, and then you're still using an arc welding. That's what the
Uh-huh.
GMAW shielded metal arc welding. You're using a shielded flux off of a stick rod. Shielded metal arc welding. The rest are pretty much arc welding
But it's
from there.
all the idea with all welding is whether you're using gas or electricity and those, but you're making heat to melt steel together. It's almost it sounds so fancy, but when you boil it down, it's like no, no, no. We're just melting these two pieces of metal together at in the optimum, I don't know, depth or consistency or whatever the job requires, right?
Yeah, actually, if you, I don't know, I mean, don't quote me. You actually Google welding. It's just forming of similar. It's forming of similar. I don't know exactly the terminology, but it's the forming of products. It's not
Uh-huh.
actually just in like metal form, aluminum or metal. I mean, like on your
Oh, oh, I see.
piece of toothpaste tube, you
Yeah.
go, in the morning when you, the end of it has that like end of it. Well,
Yeah.
that's resistance welded. It's actually plastic welding.
Interesting. Yeah, okay. And well, it makes perfect sense. You're welding these two things together, combining the materials so they're no longer two separate pieces. Huh.
Yep. You're
Have
actually pipelines are actually done resistance welding too. Heat over resistance on they have actual plastic pipelines in the ground, which are pipe and they're plastic welded. They're heated and then they're just pressed together. I mean, that's like a good probably 10 to 15% of the pipelines across America are actually used like that.
and that's for moving natural gas, you said?
Yeah, mainly natural gas and disposable water, potable water, like the water that you and I drink every day goes through a pipeline.
Right.
So it's different forms of transportation of gas and not so much petroleum because it's not quite because petroleum like oil, oil out of the ground comes out generally. It's going to be hot, cold. It's a little safer to do a steel welded
I
pipeline
see.
for
Um
that.
I want to talk a lot more about welding, but before we do, I really need to talk about pipelines and the oil industry and this type of sector of the economy. I'm from Oregon, where logging and timber is just it's all around us, and so everybody kind of knows the basics because you see the equipment, you see the log trucks, and basically any person on the street, man or woman, young or old, could tell you the basics of how the trees come out of the woods. But I don't know anything about pipelines, which is funny because you hear about it all the time, like this pipeline, that pipeline. So I'm hoping you can just give me a basics of it. And the first question is, these pipes are running across states and countries, take going from like oil where it's being mined or drilled or whatever to refineries. And are the pipelines like overground or underground? Can you just kind of like paint the picture here as if I'm a 5-year old?
Yeah, yeah. So for just like in general pipelines out there, like I said, that's the pipelines are more than just oil and gas. Obviously, actually, up in Oregon, I actually got a job offer years ago to work on the world's biggest pipeline up there, and it was your guys' water up there in Beaverton, I think it's
Really?
called
Yeah.
Beaver or
Beaverton,
Beaverton.
yeah.
There's a huge pipeline going from there to Seattle. It's giant. It's a water pipeline. I think you guys are putting in some massive infrastructure.
Huh.
So pipeline does that is more than just that. But yeah, to explain it for just like someone to really understand, yeah, you got all kinds of pipelines. You got small pipelines that are running your natural gas to your house, obviously, and believe it or not, those are small, like 1 inch pipelines. If you can imagine a garden hose underground
Mhm.
to get to instead of having it above ground where you're going to have to put it up up on it through a bridge or whatever so people don't run into it, or like a light power plant or whatever.
Mhm.
um it's underground and it runs to your house. That's like probably the most common little pipeline that we all depend on. All the way down to the 4-year-old in her room watching YouTube needs that gas pipeline to heat their house. Then it gets
Mhm.
bigger from there. You got your distributions. So all them little pipelines have to go to a distribution center, and then bigger pipelines would feed that natural gas.
Mm.
Natural gas, believe it or not, fun fact for anyone out there, is the only natural renewable resource that we actually have that's sustainable, they say. Natural gas, believe it or not, is actually just tiny. Everyone everyone kind of I don't know. They kind of give me crap for this one, but it's just little tiny bugs underground. That's what oil is. It's
Mhm.
just dinosaurs. They say it. It's real. It's dinosaurs, civilizations underneath ground that however they got there through an asteroid or whatever, and oil's processed through there, and then these little bugs are eating up all this bacteria down there. Tiny microscopic bugs, and they're actually farting, and they're creating natural gas. And so that
Really?
natural gas, just like that pipe, just like that oil and gas and everything like that, and that's drilled. Either you drill into it just to the top part of it or a certain seam, and you can extract just the natural gas. Some will just have natural gas if it's not like an oil formation, and then you can also get the oil out of it. Um,
Wow.
and then yeah, then that's transported through pipelines. Your gas distribution goes to power plants, big giant pipelines like you'll see big 20, 30, 40-inch pipelines where they're running to power plants and stuff like that for electricity for our homes. They're also getting distributed. They're going to plants. These pipelines will actually feed plants. It's like a big bowl of spaghetti, you know what I mean? And it feeds a plant, and that plant might make propane for your barbecue grill. They'll take
Uh-huh.
that natural gas, they'll actually condense it till it turns to a liquid, and then then it gets put in a big truck, sent to Menards, sent to Walmart, put in a little
Huh.
tiny propane tank. Pretty amazing. So that pipeline gets you there. That's the start of it all, besides the drilling process.
Wow.
And then, like I said, even the pipelines, they transfer oil. That pipeline will get usually sent to a holding facility, and then the whole holding facility, that's where you'll see giant tanks, real big tanks. Bigger than Walmart sometimes. And
Whoa.
then that will distribute it to a refinery. And then, believe it or not, sometimes that refinery has their own pipeline if they're bigger with big infrastructure. That pipeline is one of the biggest parts of the infrastructure for oil and gas industries. After it goes through that refining process, you're going to get other things. You're going to get ethanol, you're going to get diesel, gas, you're going to get straight up just rubber and tar out of it also. But
Mhm.
after it, your refining process, usually like diesel, they'll actually pipeline that diesel to say, I don't know, Seattle or whatever, Seattle, Washington, or somewhere close, Portland, Oregon, to where they can get it with trucks and then transport it to the gas station, because it's the safest, most efficient way to and most it's the safest and most efficient way to transport a liquid, because of the you're underground. It's safer that way. There, believe
Hmm.
it or not, it's kind of like everyone's afraid of airplanes, but believe it or not, less people die in airplanes than they do in
Yeah.
your ratio. So that actually, that's after that they get it to Seattle or Portland, and then the trucks take it on from there, based in most situations.
Yeah. So if someone, let's say, leaves your school, and the idea that I always have is like pipeline welders, these guys with a rig who are driving out and welding a pipeline. Is that, I'm sure there's repairs and there's new installs and such, but what does that actually look like? You drive out into the Midwest somewhere and you just come to the end of the pipe and just start adding pieces, or are you like a lone wolf going out and patching holes and doing repairs on things that get wrecked? And is it underground, so you have like people are digging it up before you can work on it, or what's it actually like out in the field when you're a pipeline welder?
Yeah. So our students at Western Welding Academy, a lot of them, they're going to get into that, exactly what you said. There's actually different parts of the trade out there. You got your mainline welders. They'll actually go to the main contractor. That the main contractor is kind of like the Walmart of you going and shopping, right? You can get
Hmm.
everything from there. So that contractor says, I got a pipeline. I hire 30 welders to do mainline. So it's a different kind of trade. It'd be like the difference of possibly maybe a YouTube short versus a
Hmm.
YouTube like actual like podcast like this or something. So there's mainline. That's where you're
Hmm.
doing new construction. You're putting in brand new pipe, doing X-ray quality welds, pressure tested welds, and yeah, they come anywhere from about 40 foot to 80 foot long joints that are actually externally coated, so the rust and stuff like that, so you
Oh.
don't get leaks. And they're welding miles and miles of these 40 foot joints, 80 foot joints, and they weld. I mean, all the they do it all across America. Obviously, there's different checkpoints and dock stations and stuff where the pipelines have to go to either go to holding tanks or to the next pump system. But yeah, there is also a lot of our students will go to that. A lot of Western Welding Academy students will actually go to the repair side too. So yeah, those pipelines. I've worked on pipelines from in the 30s. It was put in a pipeline. I actually have a piece of the pipe. I built a barbecue grill for my welding rig. I
Cool.
Yeah, and it was made and it was put in the ground in 1934.
Wow.
And sections of that pipeline were still good, and so we were cutting out little sections that they have a because they're required by DOT to maintain a pipeline and monitor its wall thicknesses and stuff. So they have a thing called an actual pig. They call it a pig. Now it's not like a piglet like you would like Charlotte's Web. It's a little foam brick round bullet looking deal that goes down the pipe, and it's got specialty sensors, just like when a female's pregnant and they need to look for the baby. Same
Uh-huh.
thing. It sends it down that miles and miles of pipe, and it records the walls of that pipeline. And then they're like, "Oh man, it's getting thin right here." They'll be
Yeah.
like, "Well, what's going on?" Either the oil's washing it out, or the gas, or it's rusting from the outside. And they'll be like, "Okay, this summer we know it's getting thin, but we're going to want to analyze that this summer." And they'll cut it out. They'll cut out either 10 foot or 40 foot and do a repair. That's called an anomaly. So they don't know
Oh,
why, and they'll actually do some hardcore research on that pipeline to figure out why that pipeline's rusting out there, why it laminated, why it delaminated, because of the material manufacturing process didn't create a quality piece of pipe, and it'll actually start coming apart. And so
wow.
that's your maintenance part of that side. On top of that, I mean, I could talk for days. On top of that maintenance side of the pipelines, you also got the oil, the manufacturing process at the refinery for refining that oil once it gets to there. You got you got the drilling process, and just the very, very crude, that's why they call it crude oil, the very, very crude process of extracting that from the ground and actually separating the water and the oil and natural gas, because it all comes out of the ground at once usually. And you got all that welding that our students do, the pipe and the pumps, the heater treaters, stuff like that, because it comes out of the ground in a water oil slushy. It's like water and
So
oil
there's
mixed.
water mixed in, like the crude along with the oil, huh?
Yep, 100% of the time. Yep, yep.
Mm.
If you can imagine today, we just took a big giant body of water and just covered it up with dirt and let that sit for hundreds of thousands of years. That's how you
Wow.
get oil. It's fish, crustaceans, tree limbs, like all that stuff, all that natural elements of the world decomposing. And just like fish oil, there's oil in fish, there's oil
Yeah.
in pine needles, probably. There's oil in everything. It kind of all decomposes and it just doesn't disappear. You know what I mean? It stays in that generally, and I'm not sure on the but like I don't know the word I'm looking for. I'm not sure
Yeah.
about the
I don't know if it's geology. Is that, or
geology.
maybe it's chemistry of some sort, or I don't know.
Yeah, the chemistry and geology of how, like
Yeah.
if it was a giant body of water, but like they're underneath us right now, and it just doesn't go away. You know what I mean? And they drill it. They have seismograph that actually sense where they're at, and they can see it through like it's geology, I think. A geologist can like go on Google Maps. I think that's what it's called. And he can go on there and he can be like, I bet you there's oil right here. He'll be like, I can see this section of land and
Huh.
it's inconsistent. And I know that this, elevation wise, blah, blah, blah. I bet you there's oil here. They'll contact that landowner. They'll actually send seismograph down there, seismographing. They'll actually do some testing and they'll be like, yep, oil's down here. That's kind of where the industry has gone to. It's pretty crazy. It's insane. And
Yeah.
that's some stuff that it changes day by day. And then, you extract it out of ground, you got to do all that refining process. Then they send it down a pipeline. Our students, they repair them pipelines, they repair the facilities, they build the facilities, and then, they build the facilities that, extract that oil and refine it. Um, Not let
Wow.
alone, then it even goes to, manufacturing for like medical stuff too. Believe it or not, there's a lot of petroleum that goes into like medical plants and stuff, pharmaceutical
Yeah.
plants too. Also, that has to do with just that pipeline, that natural pipeline oil, what have you, that got transported from
Yeah. I mean,
California to Washington.
I think we'd be shocked if we knew how many products had oil in them. I'm thinking even like cosmetics, for example, and obviously anything to do with plastic. And it's just like paint. Paint's probably full of oil and these these products. So about welding and your students, when you guys have a new student, and correct me if I'm wrong, but did you say basically every Monday there's some new student starting? People can kind of just walk in like and jump in
Yeah.
at any given Monday. That's amazing. Are these kids do they have experience welding? Are they kind of starting like after like a high school welding curriculum, or are they kind of just totally fresh blank slate?
So, what 99% of Western Welding Academy students actually come from all across America. And those students, not only they don't really have much welding experience, maybe high school, maybe grandpa was teaching them, maybe their dad is a welder. We've had a lot of really good ones there, and that gives them a leg up most of the time. Sometimes, it might give them, they might learn a bad habit that we got to train them out of. But generally our demographic is 17 to 24-year-old
Huh.
students that are out of high school, maybe out of college even. They found their niche in college, but they don't know where to go from there,
Yeah.
and they're like, I want to do this. With our program, every week they start up. If they got, experience, we can evaluate their experience with testing procedures and stuff, and get them in different
Yeah.
parts of the program that might better fit them. But yeah,
Yeah.
we don't need, because we're the premier welding school in America. We don't just target people that are, like high end. We have a different selection process, more on the core values of the human, through their application process, to where we know they're going to do good, even if they don't even know that they can.
I see.
Kind of crazy. You got, a good welder isn't just, born. Yeah, they got it. They're going to be taught, they're going to be trained, or they're going to learn themselves.
Right.
And usually it takes a certain person. You know what I mean? Like almost like that pioneer person. Back in the day, the guy that just woke up with the sun every day and then went to sleep with the sun every day.
Yeah.
Kind of like that
So,
kind of, and we do that through an application process.
yeah, what's that like? So, in other words, you don't just take anybody off the street. People have to apply and kind of fight for a chair in the building. But what if someone's listening to this who's kind of intrigued? Describe that application process and what you're looking for and what it takes to make the cut.
Yeah, so anyone that is interested in going to Western Welding Academy to be a student, all they have to do is go to applytoweld.com. Actually, we got a link. It takes you there, applytoweld.com, and it'll take you to an application process. All applications that are submitted to the fullest, if every question is filled out, will all get manually received and reviewed by our specialists. So, basically anyone that's interested, anyone that's diehard, if they fill that application out all the way, someone will go in there and they will analyze these questions. Now, if they say, if I ask you, be like, dude, what, where did you, what, I don't, on the questions there, let's just say one of them was like, where are you from? If you just skipped that question, we're going to be like, probably not our person. If someone
Yeah.
just wants to skip, there's some we get, you say NA if, I don't think we ask what ethnicity you are, but, if you said,
Hmm.
there's some like, oh, like, are you from the United States or whatever? If no, if you don't answer that, we don't, we still look at you on them. But if it's simple questions, they won't exactly get processed through that application. So
Yeah.
their applications have to be filled out all the way to applytoweld.com. And beyond that, it's just that I call it grit. Our president Tyler Sassy actually started it, and it's just got to be anyone that's like doubting themselves. They just got to
Yeah.
have that grit, like a logger. They got to have
Yeah.
that grit. You know what I mean? If you're afraid of it, that's one thing. But if you kind of give up, that's different. If
Yeah.
that, your career might be a little more different. A little more based off. You might want to go into a different career. That grit. If anyone ever doubts themselves, that I describe that as like that pioneer aspect. Waking up with the sun every day, working with their hands. Their hands aren't clean. Just kind of
Hmm.
like that gritty person.
How long does it take for someone to, let's say, start at zero, and then I'm sure you have lots of curriculums and certifications people can choose, but what would be like the average? Like, how long does it take for someone from the time they start till the time they can get hired and start earning a paycheck?
Yeah, that's why. So yeah, so our students at Western Welding Academy, we actually take 17 and a half year olds, believe it or not, because our course
Wow.
generally is a 6 month course, and we did that because some of these kids are just super bright, super intelligent.
Hmm.
With the school system these days and homeschooling, some people can get out of it early, and we don't want to
Yep.
hold anyone back, but we have to set them up for success. And we do that because 17 and a half and then a 6 month program is our general program for where we would start a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old kid would be a 6 month program. And then after that 6 months, bam, they're ready to go straight to work after they graduate Western Welding Academy.
Wow. So I've heard for years, that these welders work on pipelines can make big bucks. But and I've met some guys actually in Arizona. I bumped into this guy. He had the most hardcore welding rig truck I'd ever seen. I was floored. It was a thing of beauty. I'd never seen anything like it. And in chatting with him, he's like, "Oh yeah, I work on the pipeline," and so that was to me like some evidence, like, yeah, they must make good money. Also, that's obviously the tools of the trade. But um, what do welder? Let's say the economy's good, or the oil's up, or there's a lot of pipelines being built. But what does that mean? Like, how much do guys make? I'm sure there's a range, and you probably start like with a wage of some sort. But then I'm sure there's also guys who are lone wolves out there just solving problems, who taking a little more risk, making more money. So what's the range you tell potential students that they can make with this?
Yeah. So the range is it's obviously infinite. I know that sounds insane to a lot of people. Your career will never stop if you keep chasing it, right? These guys, I can just let the proof is in the pudding. So the welders like is the highest paid wage. Believe it or not, Google is completely, they're talking, they're not recording what real welders are. A real welder that, builds stuff. Um, so our students, they range, I would say any student on average right now, we took an average and our students are averaging roughly $30 an hour when they graduate. But that being said, I have some students like one of my good students from California, Jake Ford. He graduated. I think he graduated in 5 months. Actually, 18 years old. He went to a pharmaceutical plant in California. I think Sacramento, right in Sacramento somewhere, and they hired him out right out of the gate because of his skill level and his demeanor.
Hmm.
His That we teach all our students a lot like a job. We have a clock system; they clock in and out, and they hired Jake Ford in at $38 an hour straight out of here. Um,
Wow.
pretty doggone big success story. I also
Yeah.
have one of my very first students that actually graduated. He actually bought my welding truck. He wanted to
Oh.
buy it when he graduated. His name's Sloan Nikolai, and the dude has one eye. His other eye doesn't even work. I might get in trouble from him. Don't worry, you can post it. Him and I are cool. He might, not a lot of people know it, but he can't see out of the other eye. And he graduated. He actually went to another school, a college-based school, and they shut down for COVID. And he's like, man, like I can't, that's not me. I gotta go kill it. And so he called us up and he went to our school, and he was obviously a very hungry individual with a lot of grit with one eye. And he graduated ahead of time, the whole shabam. He went out, he worked the refinery. He called me like a couple weeks after he graduated. He was working this refinery. He goes, I want to buy your welding truck. You got two of them. You don't need them. And I was like, I'm not selling you my welding truck, dude. He goes, come on, man. Like, I know all these welders out here making all this money, dude. And I'm like,
Oh.
yeah, I know. And he's like, I'm not, I'm only making, $30 an hour. I want to make $100 an hour like these guys. And I was like, yeah, it's not fair, man. I'm not going to sell you my old red, my old junker. I was like, cause that's just my baby. I'm not going to sell it. And I had $100,000 welding rig, kind of like you probably seen in Arizona. He
Yeah.
actually lives just down by Arizona. Heck, it might have been him you were talking to.
Yeah.
And he's like, I want to buy it. And I said, dude, that's $100,000 rig. He's like, that's okay. And I'm like, nope, I'm not going to do it. I'll make a deal with you though. I told him, I said, if you want to buy my welding truck, come back to me in a year from your graduation date, get with me, and prove to me that this traveling, that pipeline welder, like you're explaining, that going from different jobs, that high risk job
Yeah.
like that is for you. Prove to me that you can do it, and we'll talk in a year.
Yeah.
A year and a week later, he calls me up. He's like, what's the price on that thing? And I told him a price, whatever, $100,000 welding truck. And he's like, all right. And he brought me cash a couple
Whoa.
weeks later, cash money to me,
Wow.
bought that truck. I'm like, man, I didn't even want to sell it. I thought he was joking. And
Wow.
he holds the record at Western Welding Academy for the highest paycheck in a week. He was making
Yeah.
with that welding rig in California, actually, welding on an oil rig in California. He made $7,800 in 1 week
Wow.
with one eye.
Yeah, think what he could do if he had two.
Oh, it'd $14,000.
You got to get him like a welding hood with just like one little like screen on the one side. He doesn't
Yeah,
need to waste the money on the second one.
yeah. Save money.
Hey,
You don't even need just half a lens.
yeah, exactly. Well, that's really cool. What is it about welding trucks? I would have thought and that welders with that skill almost enjoy making their own. Like a Jedi building their own lightsaber. Like this, now's the time for me to build this out. I'm sure it takes time. It takes money either way. But I always assumed that was like a step in the journey for welders. But I guess not everybody has the time to do that, or what?
Yeah, so it's hard to exactly say, like a pipeline welder, like you're saying. That would be just like saying just a logger. A
Yeah.
logger probably, a truck driver drives truck just for logging, maybe. Pipeline welders, they just weld pipe. I think an
Okay.
all around welder, which is what I strive to be in my career. A lot of our students are doing at Western Welding Academy. They can do it all. They can weld pipe. They can do it in just the facilities. Like the
Yeah.
pharmaceutical plants, welding TIG welding stainless. They can go out there and they can repair junky iron. They can go fix a handrail at the hospital. They can
Hmm.
also build themselves a welding rig. And that's, for me, you know what I mean? That's almost my resume. When I was a rig welder, I still am. I own them. My rigs are almost a reflection of me. Now, some people,
Yeah.
they don't got the time. They're out there, running, doing pipelines, so they
Yeah.
just buy it. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think you're right. I think that's the creme de la creme to drive around in a truck that you built, that you're proud of, that reflects you. Kind of like that guy
Yeah.
you probably met.
Yeah, yeah, he was amazing. He had like the nicest house in the block, and actually, as I think about him, I bought a oven from him on Craigslist. Is how I met him. I went to his house to pick up his oven. I saw his truck, and I was like, "What in the world? What do you do?" He's like, "I weld." And it, like I said, this is a nice neighborhood too, and he had the nicest house in the nice neighborhood, and he was just the coolest. And
Yeah,
that was like a lining up a face and a name. The name being pipeline welder, but I was kind of like, oh yeah, this is this career, this trade that I've heard about for a long time. This guy has it figured out. And about trucks, you're right, because welding is one thing, but like tools and building trucks and such, but there's equipment and cranes and heavy, I don't know, like brakes and presses that would allow a person to make an even better truck that not every, let's say, graduate of your schools is going to have right off the bat, to where like all division of labor type of things, if the specialist, the person who is set up, has tooled and has got the jigs and everything to make those, that equipment, can probably do it for way less, even
Yep.
if you have the skills, right?
And time. We only got a certain
Yeah,
amount of time on this planet, and
yeah,
it's just like remodeling your bathroom. It might be
yeah,
cheaper for you and me to do it, but is it going to be the best looking bathroom when we're done? And
yeah.
you
And
know,
it may not even be cheaper
yeah.
by the time you do like 14 trips to Home Depot, to buy one like whatever washer that you can't get the right size on.
Especially
So
with fuel prices these days.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So tell me about your career, because you've done all sorts of welding and now you're teaching. So are you from Gillette? Is this like home for you anyways, or what is it that kind of got you into the seat you're in now?
Yeah, so we actually started Western Welding Academy. Our president started it about 3 years ago. I came in about 2.5 years ago, and it's actually we're pretty new. But my career, I started out, you know what I mean. I just wanted to weld. I didn't even know. I didn't even know that pipe had a hole in the center of it. I didn't know why there was pipelines, if there was. I didn't
Yeah,
know much about trucks. I was very, very blessed to have some good friends in the welding industry. And I just kept knocking down their door when I was young. And I actually got my first welding job at 15 years old.
wow,
Went to college, and thought that was the right way. You know how they teach us, when we're in grade
yeah,
school. You got to go to college. You got to be someone. And I'm like, yeah, go to get my associate's degree. Well, actually, it's a long emotional story. I actually ended up dropping out of college. We did amazing. We actually took the first time we ever went to Skills USA. It's called. We went to nationals. We actually placed second, me and my welding team. And some
wow,
stuff had happened, and I'm like, yeah, like college probably isn't for me anymore. I was like, I'm just gonna go get into my career, and I got my job at a fab shop. So I started out welding vessels, big giant vessels. So when I was telling you that oil comes out of the ground back, when you're
yeah,
pipelining or getting that oil out, it comes with water, it comes with natural gas, it comes with the stuff, and it's all like a slushy, like a blizzard or a big
uh-huh,
old, just kind of gunk. And it comes out
uh-huh,
of the ground like that, and it goes into a big giant vessel. And I built those vessels. And that vessel, what it does is it heats it up, because oil actually is way more it lowers its viscosity level when it's heated
right,
up, and that viscosity level changes, and they separate faster, because everything will separate. The universe, everything either is going to separate or come together.
uh-huh,
So the oil separates from from the water, and they separate in them vessels. And I built those. Even the natural gas will, just like a your pizza, that the smell of, that's all different gases coming out of just cooked pizza or whatever. Same with that oil, your natural gas will come off of it too. The heat
uh-huh,
process, heat speeds it up. And we
got it,
build these vessels, and I started out doing that. I was cutting big giant vessels for our welders. All I did was cut all day, building those vessels. After that, they kind of let me start welding, tacking things. I just kind of grew from there.
huh,
Unfortunately, my college, they didn't even offer a pipe program, and I was like, I want to do pipe. No one knew
huh,
about it, and I knew about the shop, and so they started. And then they're like, okay, we'll teach you how to start welding pipe. We'll let you weld on these giant pieces of pipe, these vessels. And I got started getting certified. And like I said, I was super lucky. The owner of that company, Greg Doherty, here in Gillette, Wyoming, he owns one of the biggest oil field company in town, and he had welding trucks. And I'm like, dude, that's my kind of people right there. I seen
yeah.
a truck. I like trucks. I'm a redneck. I'm like, it's got mud tires. I like mud tires. I'm a redneck. Oh, and I can go make money. I was like, I want to do that.
Done.
And, yeah, and I'm like, done. Sign me up. And so he started sending me out, and I was lucky, or I know I wasn't naturally talented, because I wasn't a good welder, but I had ambition, I had grit, and he started sending me to bigger jobs. I started at 19 years old. I was running $1 million jobs for him. I had 10 welders and other contractors underneath me, and that rig really got me there. That welding, just
Yeah.
chasing that. And after that, I went out and started my own business, my own contract business. I worked for that guy for 7 years, and I just kind of started doing that. And always thinking about back in college when I didn't get that opportunity because of the environment that I was in. They didn't know
Right.
about it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
man, it'd be and so I started helping my helpers. Everyone, I got a helper in my truck with me all the time. I broke out a lot of good helpers. It's called breaking them out. So you'll break
Huh.
a helper out. You'll be like, you can do it, you can do it. You'll train them how to weld, and then you'll go, all right, go take this test, and you'll go help them on their test. And
Huh.
I can't even count the amount of welders out, and a lot of them are welding to this day. And it was just fulfilling to me to be able to help these people out because I didn't get it. I had to learn the hard way on the
Yeah.
job. And so when Tyler Sassy started Western Welding Academy, he's like, "Hey, dude," he's like, "Come on down here." And he's talks to me, and he's like, "Dude, I want you to come in on this thing with me, help me out." And I'm like, "No, I'm good." I'm like, "I'm not a teacher, I don't think." And then start thinking about it. I'm like, "Man, I really do want to help these people out. I never got it." And
Yeah.
so thinking about it more and more, and we just partnered up after that. About 6 months after that, it took me a while. I was working at a gas plant actually making the propane. I was welding up the pipelines for the propane manufacturing facility, that plant,
Huh.
for propane for your barbecue. And it took me a while because I had company men, like some high end clients that I had to fulfill what I committed to. And I started out, and he hired me on as a welding instructor. Let me he We got in some equity of the company. I was a co-founder of Western Welding Academy at that point, and
Wow.
we just growed from there. He's actually downstairs right now doing some real high end data stuff. He's a nerd, believe it or not, and I'm a redneck. And he's actually a welder too. He was a 798 pipeline welder.
Huh.
Um, and I think, and we got other good people too here. We started out, Nathan Ponder, one of our operations manager. He was a pipe welder, or is a pipe welder. He did like real high end stainless steel welding. James Packard, just absolutely stud. Just done everything you can imagine. Really good instructors, really good core values around here. Basically, you can't be an instructor at Western Welding Academy unless you live, breathe, sleep, and eat welding.
Right. I
Basically.
assume that you didn't do a ton of social media and like content creation before you were involved with Western welding, but you said you weren't a maybe natural welder. You had to do it the hard way, but I kind of get the impression that you are a little bit of a natural in making content and putting yourself out there in video. Has that come easy, or is that just it always looks easy from the outside, or how has that gone for you? Because I'm quite impressed that the content you guys make is really fun. It's exciting. It makes me want to sign up for welding school, and I'm almost 40. So, but anyways, how's that? What's that been like putting videos out?
Yeah, so starting out, actually, believe it or not, a lot of people look at the negative effects of COVID, right? COVID hit us really hard right at the beginning of our business. COVID, our government actually shut us down. They said, "Hey, we can't have large gatherings of people," and we're like, "That's our business."
Yep.
So we started out, and we're like, "Well, we got all these students and they're just waiting around for school to open back up," because we closed down for 2 months because of it. And we're like, we got to
Jeez.
do something, and we're
Yeah.
gritty. We're like, we're going to make it happen no matter what. No one will ever say we didn't try. And we started doing YouTube for the students. We started doing how to's. And absolutely, I am a way better welder than I ever was a content creator starting out. My my If you look at some of my videos, they were terrible in the beginning, but we had to do it to help the students out. And we
Huh.
noticed that some people, if they see it more than once on YouTube, what happens is they actually learn faster because they're seeing it in a different aspect, almost like that classroom perspective. So we
Hmm.
kept doing that. And then what we noticed is we got a lot of traction on social media channels. It really kind of increased our authenticity of Western Welding Academy. And we had all these great people around us: Tyler Sassy, Nathan Ponder, Chase Smith, all our lead instructors, all our, even our machinists that machine our pipe for us. We're like, we need to capture this because the people love it. And I think it just,
Hmm.
I think something about, I guess it just, I naturally fell into that place. I guess everyone likes the beard, I guess, is what happened. That, it almost gets, you're like, whatever. And then finally you're like, no, people like your beard, Danny. Like they want to see more of you. And it just, the more you do something, the better you get at it.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of beards, not to derail this, but it really is not only a thing of beauty, but quite impressive. And I say that because every time I grow a beard out, I get to about 3/4 of an inch, and I'm just like tapping out as if I don't know why. I just like there's like it takes a serious amount of like I don't know about stamina or what you'd say, but it's a real achievement to like grow a long beard. So I don't know how you guys do it, but you got my salute. I've tried and I've failed a lot of
Dedication.
times. Yeah.
Dedication, that's what I always tell people, you know. If a woman's looking for dedication, bless their heart, I got a fiance. But I mean, there ain't no more dedication than letting this thing blow in the wind and tickle you. And I have a newborn baby. She grabs onto it and yanks it. That's dedication right there, you know.
That is a really good point. That's like it's the classical wisdom is that women wouldn't be attracted to a big beard for this or that reason, but what you're saying is no, 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 no. That tells you that's a symbol that shows the dedication of the man. There's something to that. I like it.
Could be something psychological there. I don't know.
Hey, here's my last question, and I kind of know the answer, but I feel like I have to ask it. And that is, I know a couple kids. They're like 20, 22 years old, total knuckleheads, like just up to no good. But they are the best and most capable kids if they just could like get engaged and get like some traction. Now, obviously, if I had a magic wand and I could like force them, I'd pick them up and drop them right in your school and handcuff them to the workbench, But that doesn't work. But I know there are parents and a lot of people who wish they could. So my question is it only like the super motivated go getters who excel, or do you ever have kids whose parents kind of twist their arm? Who, how long does it take a kid like that to sort of feel like he's happy to be there and not just, like got a gun to his head the way some kids might?
Yeah. So that actually, it's not it's not a lot of a huge percentage of our students that don't they're not really, their heart isn't in it. Usually with that inspiration, that's another thing with our social media platforms is we do inspire people to get them there, you know what I mean? And then they're just fired up on it. But
Yeah.
sometimes you get the one, it's hard, going to, our school is just like a job. You clock in, that's how you get paid at a job, is you clock in and sell your time to your employer. Well, to get a grade at Western Welding Academy, you got to clock in just like you would on a job. We have different phases and hours. It's pretty amazing, and it's hard. Some of them kids get, they get down. You know what I mean? Some of it, they're like, they got to wake up early. We have, we run 24 hours a day. We have 3 shifts, so we have a 6 a.m. shift, a 2 p.m. shift, and a 10 p.m. graveyard shift. And so, like,
Wow.
it's hard. They're not used to that 8 hours a day. But I mean, sometimes there is no better way to, be prepared or to get to a point in life than just what's the word I'm looking for? Just to get thrown in it. You know what I mean? Just to
Yeah.
the fire on the throwing gas or throwing it right into the frying pan, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
But along the way, the coolest thing we found is our students, we're like the only school that does this, to where we start students. So we might have a student starting this week, but we've had a student that's been here for 2 months already, and he's
Yep.
been through that struggle. He's gone through that, like, oh man, I have to get up at 6 a.m. And he comes over here, and that kid, and they see it, and they're great kids. And they'll go in there
Yeah.
and be like, dude, I totally got your back, dude. I've been there. I know what to do. Oh, you're struggling with this. I got you. Hey, let's go cook burgers this weekend, and they do
Yeah.
this like self networking. And because that guy has low confidence, this guy's gained his confidence because of the last ecosystem, the students that were in there. So yeah,
Wow.
it's kind of hard to get them motivated, but it's almost like a natural motivator. And then welding is just in general, I don't know what it is. It's just even if you fail, I failed tests. Like, it doesn't, sometimes you'll fail at something in life and you'll be like, I'm done completely. Welding, it's like, it's like something that just keeps dragging you in. I
Yeah.
think it's, almost like art. That welding feels like art, and you can do it different ways, and you can get the
Yeah.
same, an outcome that's still quality, still up to standard procedure for the industry. So, and
Yeah.
I think it's a natural way that we've created at Western to keep them motivated.
Oh man, I absolutely love everything about this school. And the more I hear about it, the more I'm just cheering you guys on. I don't want you to get too big because I'm sure the small or the feeling right now is probably really special. And if you guys instantly were 10 times bigger, I'm sure it may change to some extent. But what an amazing opportunity for people, like you said, if they have a feeling college may not be for them, but they still want to make a good living and have a career that opens doors.
More
What an
money than a lawyer, even
Yeah,
sometimes.
more, yeah, and especially when you factor in the time value of money. In other words, like a lawyer's got 4 years of undergraduate, then law school. They're not even getting a paycheck for till like 7 or 8 years from now. So, you know what? You know how much money you can make in 7 or 8 years
Oh
if
shoot.
if you put it to work, and kind of, you don't have to even think about investing it. Just the momentum of your career. It's a head start. That's what it is. It's like hitting a career, with hitting a head start out of a career.
Yeah, Sloan
Um,
Nikolai, my student, the one that has the high, he's going to make $1 million by the time one of his friends from high school graduates and on their doctorate or what have you. You
yeah,
know.
and they'll probably be $1 million in the hole. So he's actually $2 million ahead of him.
Yep. Yep.
Hey, okay, a couple welding questions for you, and then I'll let you go. And the first, just so I don't forget, will you explain to me? You guys have those welding hoods that are flat like a pancake. I never seen that before. What are those? Is that something to do with pipe welding, or will you explain that for me?
So this is pipe welding. Our regular hoods. So this is a pancake right here.
Yes, that's it.
So this is more made for pipeline. No, okay, I take that back. It's more what made for welding outside. This is my flavor of welding hood. This was what I love because I was blessed to get into that welding rig at such a young age. So this is a pancake. They've been around longer than any other welding hood. The thing about this is there's an auto darkening lens in here. If you actually look into it, the sun will actually turn it on. It'll darken, just like them fancy glasses you can buy. But the way this works is these pancakes work to where this is a right-handed pancake because I'll put it on like this and I'll weld like that. So the sparks are always going to hit me here. They're never going to usually come back up and hit me down this way. So this is a right-handed pancake with a shield on the left. That's your shield. And then this is
Uh-huh.
your box. Some of them are made of wood, and then some of them are made of this nice, cool goggle material. This goggle material from Outlaw Leather, actually, this pancake is. What it does is it perfectly seals around your face, so it's really, really safe. It's quite frankly the most safest welding hood out there, believe it or not. Even though it's not commonly used, because it
Uh-huh.
goggles to your face just like a ski goggles, just like ski goggles. And then
Wow.
the best part about it is when you're welding outside, you might, someone might, have park their truck next to you, a white truck, and that glare will come in on your hood. You might not notice it as much, like, in your car, you got a dirty windshield and then, like sun shines on it the other way, you can't hardly
Hmm.
see. Well, you got like
Yeah.
4 different pieces of glass in this lens. It gets absolutely terrible if you get that glare from that sunlight. So it's
Wow.
a simple little headband here, and it sucks it on there, and it freaking literally makes it the best visual experience you can have. So
Yeah. Okay. That answers that. It looks like almost rudimentary and like so simple, like it's a joke. But I guess I've never seen the back of them. I didn't realize it had the that whole baffle to hold it to your face. So that answers that.
yeah.
Hey, what about like in China? I watch videos on YouTube of welders who will be holding a hood, and then they just set it down. Is that simply like the cheapest way to get the job done, or is that used in factories, or what's that type of hood all about?
That's one of the cheaper hoods. I've never seen that in an industry. Usually that's
Okay.
like your beginner intermediate. I think it's more of a marketing tool. I think
Oh,
China can buy they can build a weld machine. They build it for $10 and they sell it to Americans for 100. They can sell you a welding hood that they made for $1. They can
yeah.
sell all that package with a little bit of welding rod, and they can sell that for, which is cool for high school students or people that are, maybe less fortunate. They can sell you this package for 150 bucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like that economy level starter
Just a
out.
budget way to go. Here's a question, and you can give me the generic answer because I'm sure this is probably something you talk about to everybody on their first Monday when they start. And when I weld, I honestly don't feel like I can really see the puddle all that well. I think I can, but I kind of don't know for sure. And with YouTube, it's, as you know, it's really hard to film and get a good video shot in a way that makes sense. So, what do you tell people like me who are fairly new, who are not sure even if they are working in the puddle? My dad will tell me things like, "Oh yeah, you got to push the puddle, and then you push the slag out of it, and these things." And I'm kind of like, "Where's the puddle?"
Yeah. So actually, everyone on their first day, what I tell them in all the videos, say your ABCs. Always be comfortable. If
Uh
you're
huh.
always comfortable, your outcome will always be better. That's what a lot of people struggle actually. If you can't see, that's part of that is because you're uncomfortable because you're not positioned correctly. It sounds
Uh,
kind of crazy, but if you consistently tell yourself that, you'll consistently have better outcomes. And then what you're saying is you can't see either that it's either you haven't looked at that puddle enough to understand exactly how that goes. Just like driving, you know what I mean? When you first
uh-huh.
started driving, or when I started driving, when you seen a stoplight, you freaking looked at the foot pedal and slammed on it. Nowadays, we
Yeah.
don't even pay attention. It's that
Yeah.
repetitiveness. Also, it is, part of that the quality of the product, like that awesome pancake, the special lens we put in it, that auto darks for you, the clarity of that lens, the safety glasses you wear underneath it, the quality of all this stuff, the quality of your
Mm,
product, stuff like that, that'll help you get there faster. And then repetition, along with really good
yeah.
instructors. But I could say, I bet you a lot of that is you're still seeing probably. And if you can't see, I would just get a pancake for a
Yeah.
lot of them guys out there, because a lot of that is, if you're in a, that dark, if you look at glare on a window, if you can take the
Yeah.
glare away, you can see better.
Well,
Um,
I actually, when you said that about the pancake, it like the light bulb went off because the last time I was welding, I was experiencing a lot of that glare on the inside of my hood, and but I kind of just assumed that once I hit the spark, it wouldn't matter anyways. But it really was a challenge the whole time. So when you said that, I was kind of like, oh yeah, I should have taken the time to correct my position or shut the door or whatever it was that was causing that glare, and maybe that would have helped, huh?
Yeah, the pancakes, so you'll have no glare, so that's the best way to do it. And then they
Yeah.
have special hoods from like Outlaw Leather that we rep. They have leather that actually kind of flops over by your head real tight, so then you don't get that very much glare. And
Yeah.
then the last thing you can do to any of them guys out there, I've seen it. Just because your lens is clean doesn't mean that you can see through it. You know what I mean? After a pair of, like your sunglasses, they get scratched up so much you can't see through it. Well, it's kind of
Yeah.
hard to understand when you're looking through a dark lens, you know what I mean? But them lenses need maintained and cleaned out every so often. With regular hoods, even more often, because of that sun at ratio, going in there,
Yeah.
or backlight,
Yeah. Okay. Hey, my last question: is there some aspect of welding that you are interested in learning next yourself, or what's aside from teaching, which I'm sure you're learning a lot about these days, and social media? But in terms of welding, are there types of welding that you yourself are kind of like, oh, I need to see that up closer, or what's like the next step in your personal welding evolution?
Yeah, my personal welding evolution, that's a hard one, man. I live the dream, I guess you would say, per se, in welding, really. They're just all around keeping my skill level high. I've been
Yeah.
pretty impressed with my skill level, like, jumping from being, the vice president of the company to a content creator to all this stuff, and still being a quality welder to go in there and, teach people how to do back feeds, the specialty TIGs, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Man, that's a hard one. That I guess just keep on. I guess my biggest thing that I want to do, actually, on a personal level, I guess now that you asked me, that's a good one. Is I want to start doing a little more of the custom things. I've built welding beds, and I'm really good at it. And one of the things I want to start doing is I want to start doing a little more of the custom stuff to get people a little more inspired. With that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I didn't hope it didn't sound like I was putting down the teaching, because teaching and combined with making content and the fact that it's about welding, that is like it is, not only is it a part of welding, but it's like, even like I said, I've done a lot of filming of welding. I don't really still know the best way to do it, but I mark my words, in 5 years you will probably be one of the best welding filming content, minds, because you will have done it a lot. So I think it counts,
Well,
learning
thank
how to
you.
teach,
Thank
learning
you.
how to motivate young welders, and even the aspects of um, helping your students get jobs. It's working in the industry, helping make these connections and stuff. So all of that counts. But also, I'd love to see your next truck bed that you make, and whatever the weekend project that you take on also.
Heck yeah. Yeah. Thank
All
you.
right.
Yeah.
Well, hey, this is amazing. I really am just so thrilled with your guys' school. We'll link to it, of course, as well as your YouTube channel. You're also on Instagram and TikTok. Is there anywhere else where you guys are putting content out?
Yeah, so we're putting content on YouTube. We're doing shorts and regular YouTube, how to stuff like that. We're on there on Instagram. We're on Instagram Reels. We're on TikTok. We're on Snapchat. I wouldn't want to give out all our secrets. We're pretty much on all of them. We actually are on Pinterest, all that, all them
Cool.
channels like that. Facebook, believe it or not, is going to make a comeback. We see in the future,
Nice.
believe it or not. We'll make sure to follow Western Welding Academy. Make sure to follow your. Do you guys just do YouTube? I'll follow you. If not, do you got some Instagram and stuff like that?
Yeah, we are on Instagram. I found, like, for me personally, YouTube is the platform that I use myself the most, and so I understand it the most. Every time I actually did start a TikTok, and I put a couple of them up, but I I so quickly started like watching other people's TikToks, and it like sucked me in that every time I opened the app, I'd be there for like half hour, and then I'd go in like a trance, and then I'd come out and be like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And it actually just scared me, so I just deleted it. And I'm like, I don't, it's not worth it. I can't go there. And Instagram, we're trying to do a better job on it. I think Instagram, I really like the audience and the type of people who are using Instagram maybe the most. They're just
Mhm.
really, I feel like those are great. It's a great crowd on Instagram. YouTube, of course, is amazing also, but there's also some knuckleheads on YouTube.
Oh gosh, I agree with you. My happy place is Instagram out of any of them.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
YouTube, you get a
you're
little
doing a
hate on
great
YouTube.
job.
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, I love your content. You got a great just you guys have a great thing going. So we'll be cheering you on. We'll link to all of these platforms in the description. This will go on our second channel, so this will be on YouTube in one manner. Although most people are downloading it and listening to it while they drive or mow the yard, or probably
Yep.
someone out there might even be welding, and they're
Heck
pretty bored by now because this is just another day in the life for them. But I've said before, almost everybody I know wants to weld. They all like deep down like, oh, I want to weld, myself included. And so you guys are doing a valuable service by making that more accessible. A lot of the stuff you're putting out is high quality and it's available for the public. So you can, I'm sure you pay tuition, but I've seen videos from your school on YouTube myself that I'm like, wow, I feel like I should write them a tuition check after watching that video. It's really valuable.
Heck yeah.
All right, Danny. Well, hey, thanks. Have a great day and keep up the good work. And we'll do this again one of these days.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.